Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the next episode of Overwatch.
The Toronto Defiant will not be denied.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Esports. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Spencer. With me is Chris. And if you guys are Overwatch League fans, you might have noticed a certain rookie debut this weekend, kind of coming out of nowhere, of course, especially if you're a Toronto fan, that being Aspire. And we decided to hop on this week to talk about maybe the future that a player like Aspire might have in this league, whether it be with Toronto or somebody else. So again, with things out of the way, I'm Spencer, this is Chris. Let's just jump right into things. Chris, how's it going?
Oh, man. I mean, it's not going good if you're a Toronto fan, but I think it's going good if you're an Overwatch fan. We are in an interesting meta that, to be honest, I think is still being figured out right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I agree with that. I don't know how interesting it is. I think there were some compositions that I was a little bit less of a fan of, but
I mean, interesting in the sense that it's still being figured out.
Yeah, I agree.
But we're seeing a lot of Reaper. I'm not a big fan of, you're right. I'm not a big fan of watching Reaper, and we've seen it, I think, a decent amount of Orisa too.
Yeah, it's the Orisa that gets me personally, but obviously we've also seen some Echo, which is pretty exciting. We've seen some Ashe with some pop-off plays. So it's not all hope is lost, but I do agree that some of those Orisa Reaper compositions in Moira are, I don't think, the most exciting Overwatch to behold.
Yeah, I want to see people get pinned into walls.
Yeah.
That's all I care about, Spencer.
Facts.
Facts. Exactly. But we have a new person, and Aspire's inspired me in Toronto's team. I don't know, and I don't know if he'll stay with them if he stays in the league. I don't know if it's the right call for him to stay with us if he's in the league. But, man, did he make a good first impression. I don't even know where they picked this guy up.
Yeah, well, they picked him off, obviously, North American contenders. Yeah, I believe he was on dark mode for a while and then was most recently picked up by American Tornado, and American Tornado was sort of like the go-to team in North American contenders. And I don't know how much he'd actually play with American Tornado. I think it was very recent that he was picked up, but then obviously from there brought onto the Toronto Defiant. But yeah, it's an absolute feel-good story. You honestly love to see it. A guy who not a lot of people had on their list when they were talking about potential, North American rookie talents coming into the league. Obviously, I think there was only one this year, being Juby. And some people did theorize that other members of American Tornado, like OGE, for instance, would come in once they became of age. But Aspire had sort of fallen by the landslide. And so for him to finally get his shot and to absolutely make the most out of it, personally, it's exactly what you wanted to see. He had a very short window to make a name for himself, and I think he very much made a name for himself. So regardless of whether or not either A, Toronto re-signs him, or B, he stays in the league, it was a great performance.
Yeah, exactly. And who was it? Was it Yang Wan or Ho Chi Lee that we brought on specifically for the scouting aspect? So I remember we brought on a scouting specific individual. I don't know if which one it was, but this seems like a definite diamond in the rough.
Yeah, I'm not going to say true diamond in the rough. Like, obviously, I think people who watched North American Contenders knew that he was good. Like, he used to play for Revival, and Dark Mode was, I think, the second best North American Contenders team. So it's not like they just plucked him. I'd say like Juby, for instance, who came from Collegiate, I think was a little bit more out of nowhere. But
yeah,
I do agree that you're right. He didn't necessarily have that name of some of the other players who I thought might get a call up before him, like a Wub, for instance.
Yeah.
Speaking of which. But anyways, no, regardless, phenomenal performance, especially just versus the San Francisco Shock. And he honestly had some insane pop-off moments versus, oh my God, who did we play the second time? I'm blanking right now.
Not Dallas. No, Houston.
Thank you. Versus Houston. He had some really good moments, especially on the Hanzo. There was that one play where he was just frying. So, I don't know if we'll see him back. And I mean, that's kind of the question we're hoping to ask and answer for you guys today, especially with Toronto, given their team roster. But A, if Toronto doesn't re-sign him, I hope somebody else does. But B, you better believe that in the offseason, there's going to be teams looking at him.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing. So it seems like his play style is a little bit more conservative. It looks like he's taking, more kind of angles that are safe angles. Looking to get value from areas where he can't be punished too hard. And I think he's done a really good job at that. The one thing in terms of regards to Toronto, I don't know if that necessarily fits Toronto's playstyle too well, because we know Toronto is a team that tries to be really aggressive with your especially a perfect example Sato, and I don't know how well he fits with that if we have a team that's trying to be aggressive and then this guy who's used to playing or it seems like he is playing good on safe angles.
Yeah, it's tough because on one hand, I almost agree that it depends on if you want that aggression to be complemented with more aggression, or if you want that aggression to be complemented with a more passive, efficient play style. And I generally don't know the answer to that because I do agree that he plays a more passive role than like Hisu, right? Who is going on a lot more aggressive flanks. And on one hand, in theory, you'd want, if the team's going to play aggressive as a whole, you want the entire team to play aggressive as a whole. But on the other hand, there's only so much healing and resources that can go around, and there's only so many people that can be pocketed. So if you can have somebody like Aspire take these more passive, safer angles and still be very efficient with them and allow people to put more, resources and emphasis on your Satos, on your Nice, for instance, on your Lastros, who are very, very aggressive players. I actually think he fits that playstyle pretty well. So I'm not sure. It could be a playstyle mismatch, but it also could be the exact opposite, where maybe he is the actual piece that we need.
Maybe we just need to become masters of Overwatch in the meta.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's
if we would be probably for a team right now, if we knew those answers.
Yeah, you're cutting out for a little bit there, Chris, but that's okay. I'll take it for a second.
You're cutting out.
Okay.
There's Bell 5.
Nice
Bell 5's gig fiber internet.
I know.
Wait,
but yeah, with that being said, like, great performance overall by him. I don't know if the fit's there. I think the bigger issue with Toronto picking up Aspire isn't necessarily the fit and the play style. For me, it's more about the fact that we already have Logix and Hisu on the lineup. Both of those players play a very similar role to, I think, Aspire in terms of being that like hit scan, right? You think that if it is Widow, ideally you have Logix in there. And if it is maybe that Ash McCree, then you hope that Hisu can kind of take over that mantle. And I understand that there is a world in which maybe Aspire plays McCree, Ash, Hanzo, and Hisu kind of falls to the wayside, I guess, of being like your Sombra specialist. But I think Hisu has enough talent to the point where he shouldn't be cast aside like that. So I know a lot of people in the Toronto fan base are very high on signing him. And from a fan perspective, I get it. Like, I would love to see this guy in Toronto. It also kind of helps to round out that potential mixed roster that Toronto could be moving forward to in year 2, right? Like, there's hints of that right now with Logix and Beast. Maybe this is something that we see them trend towards in year 2. But on the other hand, it's like, I don't think the weakness of this team so far, but let's be serious here, there are weaknesses. I don't think the weakness of that team so far has been their hit scan. And if they are going to pick up somebody else, which I generally think they should look into, I just don't know if replacing Logix and Hisu is the position I'm looking to replace, right? Like, you wonder if maybe you look at potentially getting another off tank in there, although I think Michelle's played okay. You think maybe more, and from my instance, you maybe try to get another flex DPS player in there to round out Nice in his hero pool, because personally, he's been underwhelming in my opinion. I know he's had some very flashy pop-off plays, but I think the consistency just hasn't been there, and the ult usage especially hasn't been there. And so I think that Toronto does need to, I mean, if money grew on trees and there was an unlimited roster, sure. But I think if I'm trying to be as realistic here as I possibly could be while taking into consideration roster size as well as monetary, I don't know if I don't know if it's doable.
You're right. And that kind of leads us to two questions. Like, first off, I feel like I said, Toronto's kind of discovered maybe a diamond in the rough. The real question is, how do we make money out of it? Like, do you think we could sign a contract and then sell it to somebody?
Yeah, but I don't know if I don't even want to do that, right? Like, in theory, like, if Aspire's going to get re-signed, like, just let him get re-signed by Vancouver and make his name in the league, right? Like, you don't want to be that team that just like hoards talent for the sake of hoarding talent.
Not even that, but like, I mean, kind of, yeah, it was a necessary risk, but Toronto takes a risk to find a player and it turns out to be good. Like, they should be rewarded for that.
Well, I mean, they're rewarded
monetarily.
One, from having him, perform the way they did. They're also rewarded by the fact that they can just re-sign him. Like, in theory, if you think the player is that good, diamond in the rough, just keep him on your roster and have him play for you.
Okay.
I don't see the only team I could realistically see, go out there and get Aspire if he is dropped would be maybe like a Paris or Vancouver. And there's no way Paris or Vancouver are throwing around the cash to buy somebody's contract out. It's just not going to happen, right? Like
I've heard. I was just gonna say I've heard conversations a little bit on Plat Chat too. Is that they think he could almost go to Boston Uprising maybe, to kind of back like IM37.
I heard that, but I think IM37 is still pretty good, and I think he also fits their communication structure a little bit more. I mean, don't get me wrong, Boston absolutely is a team that does like to go for those diamond in the rough players, and they do currently have a mixed roster. I don't think IM37's been that bad, and I don't know if Aspire is such a massive upgrade over IM37, especially since, and this is the part I want to make very clear, it's been 2 games. I would like it before we start talking about like, is he going to replace this player? Is he going to replace this player? I would like to give him a little bit more time to sort of prove himself. Obviously, that they can trial and they can scrim and they can do all those things, and that's information that we just don't have access to, right? I'm sure they're doing that internally. And so if that's the case and he's still popping off, then by all means. But if I'm Boston, I'm not sure I go out and make that move just yet.
All right, I understand that. And I mean, the last thing that another team could do, just to me friggin' tune off into the wind here, into the bushes, is we don't know what Pine's like yet. So maybe they're like, let's take a chance.
That would be insane if he went to Dallas because, I mean, obviously on one hand, he is an NA. He does fit that hit scan role. He could like immediately slot in, especially if you just want somebody, killing time, quote unquote, until XC comes back. If he does come back this year, knock on wood. But that's a whole Korean coaching staff. That's a whole Korean roster. I just don't know if the fit would be there from a communication standpoint. With that being said, if there was a role where you could kind of get away with it, it's probably playing that hit scan role, right? The Ash, the McCree. You kind of saw this. Like, let's be serious here. Aspire came into Toronto on what I'm assuming is very short notice because of the whole COVID situation with Logix, and I think Hisu as well is like the rumors. And he looked fine. I mean, the communication, I think Toronto as a whole is off and has been off.
Yeah, it's not like we didn't have communication from the start.
Yeah, but I'm not sitting here watching them and going, man, Aspire is like throwing these games. So in theory, I actually think Dallas could be a surprisingly good fit. And that would be a case where maybe you do re-sign him and sell him if it's not working out. Because Dallas can afford it. But I think Vancouver would be a team that, again, if they're willing to do that, go down that route, should seriously look into it. I would love for him to stay on Toronto. I think the fans love him. The problem is, man, like, I just think that there's like legitimate holes in this team that we've clearly seen throughout the first 2 stages. And I don't think Aspire fills those holes. And in fact, signing him on might actually hinder the team's ability to fill those holes. So I'm just a little concerned. Although I wouldn't complain if we brought him on full time and he continues to perform because he generally had some insane moments.
Yeah, I understand that. And with that, guys, let us know what your thoughts on Aspire are. Should he stay with Toronto? Should he go to another team? What team is that? Let us know below.
Awesome. And as always, guys, thank you for watching and enjoy.